Hello. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the second event of Jamboree. My name is Ritika Singh, and I'm from Interior Architecture and Design from IIT Delhi.
And I'm Sumit Mitsru. I'm studying communication design here at IIT Delhi. And we are thrilled to be your hosts for this session. Jamboree is back with raised expectations, enthusiasm, efforts, and engagement. It began as a spark, observing grays in a world of black and white. Now, in its second edition, it's unfolding its true purpose of being a conversation starter, something that works as a bridge between students and design mentors together and discuss contemporary topics and issues in the world of design.
So, what is different? What is raised? We will have two back-to-back talks, and there is more space for us, the students, to be a part of the conversation. The talk by the design mentor and expert is just the start of the conversation. Let it serve as an inspiration, a nudge, a trigger to set the wheel of thoughts into motion. We want to hear your thoughts and views. Jamboree is by the students and for the students.
It's my immense pleasure to introduce to you the speaker of today's talk, Mr. Shaaz. With a rich experience of 20 plus years in animation, design, and storytelling, he's the founding director of Mud and Water, a communication design studio. He has produced animation, urban art, space design, ad films, short films, documentaries, and performance art. An alumni of the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, apologies. Shaaz has been associated with various eminent institutions and organizations, including FICCI, NID Ahmedabad, Sesame Street, IIT Mumbai, SRFTII, working towards furthering the Indian animation ethos. Shaaz believes since every narrative is unique on its own, its representation in the retelling has to be that unique and true to its essence. It is this approach that has won him multiple accolades, both nationally and internationally, including Promax Gold from Singapore, MIFF 2016, Toons Flying Elephant, and MSIFF. Shaaz has been a very dear mentor of mine. He's taken me through animation and image making, and he's been a dear friend to me. So here we go.
With this, let's quickly dive into the versatility of material animation with the topic of today's talk, Medium is the Hero. I would like to invite Sir Shaaz Ahmad to address the crowd today.
My name is Shaaz Ahmad, as you've seen everywhere. I'm a young teacher. I've been into teaching for the last 3 years. I've been doing workshopping, animation, material animation, and other things for almost a decade now. But that was sporadic, like once a year or twice a year. But teaching full time for me for the last 3 years has been an experience, and I don't consider myself to be an academic or an academician, but the way I think things are panning out, I think my thought processes are definitely academic in nature. And uh, with permission from Damien and Jake, I would like to call myself a blue-collared academician. And so pardon my language and my presentation if there are some flaws in them. I will try and keep this as candid and as conversation-like as possible. And I would attempt at raising some points for the sake of conversation and for the sake of discussion to further our field and our profession, which is image making and moving images. So today's session is about material animation. And we've also added a thing called the medium as the hero. We didn't really think up of this. It has been sort of something that one has arrived at along my journey, where I've sort of indulged in multiple mediums and methods and practices of animation, and eventually realized that the medium itself sort of takes over beyond a point. It sort of dictates terms, it guides you, it lends its personality to the final realization. So, as I said, I've sort of got a collection of 8 commandments, which sort of have worked with me whenever I've been teaching material animation specifically to people who are learning animation. These are either foundation students or second year students, or a senior animator who wants to get into the whole area or the world of material animation. So, part 1 is me as a teacher, and these are my students. working very hard, working harder. So let's begin by rule number one. Rule number one, when you are interacting with a new medium, you must try and keep it as lazy as possible. As in, do not get very ambitious. Do not try and make make the Mona Lisa. Yeah, take it easy. Keep it lazy. I will, as I proceed in the presentation, I will keep explaining what these things mean and how they help you in achieving results. Yeah, so keep it lazy. Rule number two, keep it easy. Yeah. When you're beginning, we have to first try and make friends with the medium instead of having an ambitious idea beforehand. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. Point number three is that whenever I'm teaching this project, and since there are multiple mediums that are happening, you know, the idea is that since there are multiple mediums in terms of somebody wants to explore textile, somebody wants to do water, somebody wants to do sand, somebody wants to do pebbles and oil paints, etc., etc. So what we are trying to do basically is we're trying to figure out how to figure out, and each individual has a way and an approach to figuring out things, the way their mind works. So pay attention to how your mind is working, and let's figure out how to figure out. Rule number three. Rule number four, and very, very important, according to me, and I've seen fabulous results happen, is do not think. Yeah, first do it. Yeah, make 20 frames. Then look at those 20 frames and think what happened in those 20 frames. And by knowing now what has happened in these 20 frames, do it again. This process of not having a preconceived idea, but just do something. Animate 20 frames, animate 24 frames, and then look at them again. Think about it, what has happened, what hasn't happened, what would you like to happen, and then do the whole thing again. Rule number four. For innovation, is to look out for accidents and try and make mistakes, because that is a point where some fabulous things happen. When you are just erasing the canvas, but you were lucky enough to shoot while you were erasing the canvas, and some amazing things happen at that point. Another very, very important aspect of a beginner who's trying to learn material animation is try and not tell stories. Yeah, because what happens with stories, you get into characters, you get into spaces, you already have a preconceived idea of what you want to do. Try and keep it in the non-narrative space. Yeah, just explore the medium, just play with the medium, just feel the medium, and try and talk to the medium. And if you spend enough time with the medium starts to speak back to you. We are ending the session with a demo, and I hope I'd be able to make things clearer as we proceed in this presentation. So talk to the medium, make it speak to you. I know this is quite, Jake is looking very surprised. Don't tell stories. We will tell stories. Of course, we are in a storytelling medium. We will tell stories, and storytelling will happen by default. But don't begin by telling a story. Yeah, make the medium speak to you. And this is the last one, and it's not really a rule, but this has really worked for me, which is take your phone camera and go outside and look at a tree and try and make it dance. This is more to push the thought of a thinking animator. I mean, when we say a tree dancing, outside the space of material animation, let's say 3D animation or 2D drawing animation or any other form of animation, you would think of the tree dancing. Can you take your phone camera, go outside, and shoot the tree in such a way that it starts to dance? And this sort of triggers imagination, triggers that whole business of figuring out how to figure out. Do I lie down under the tree and rotate under the tree? Do I shoot it from the top? But how do I shoot it from the top, from all the sides? Basically, it makes you think about how to do the animation that you want to do. Okay, now having given these 8 commandments, not 10 as yet, let me share some of the students' work that has come out of this. Yeah, this would be this would be in like I'll take you through 5-6 clips where the first one is very, very basic, like this one. This is the very basic. Don't think to, now that you've done, look at it and think again. Yeah, if you notice, it's getting more and more complex. Another example. Oh, this one doesn't have sound. In the true spirit of experimentation, a glass sheet, a really dirty glass sheet. It's like you shoot the first 10 frames and then you say, now what do I do? Then you shoot another 10 frames and then you figure out, now what do I do? This is, I think, someone attempting to do pairs. As you can see, the students don't always follow the commandments. They do what they like to do. I'm really sorry, but the video playback is not fabulous. Once you've made friends with the medium, as I said, the medium starts to talk back to you. And as the medium starts talking back to you, it sort of opens up new, it sort of gets back. Yeah. So that was a little preview. Can we get back on the PPT? Of me as a teacher. Now I'd like to go to part number 2. I've got only 30 minutes, guys. So part number 2, me as a student. So I studied at the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. And when I took the course, it was taught not as a professional training to become an animator, thank God, which would have involved laborious cell painting, teamwork, and industry standard drawing skills, etc. Rather, it was taught as a form of artistic self-expression, perhaps like writing poetry. And the class was open to everyone's ideas and their interpretations. We came from all parts of the country, and some were interested in animating dancing camels, while others were expressing somber tales of eve-teasing and other forms of abuse. Drawing abilities and film knowledge were not a prerequisite. The gut of the teller and the manner of, you know what happened today, was the spirit of storytelling. The technical details would come in later. And what my teachers believed, perhaps at that time, these are my teachers. The top right, black and white, is when they were students. The left one is when they were teaching me, and the right one is them right now. The lady in the blue is Nina Sabnani, that is Dhimant Vyas, that is Binita Desai. I owe a lot to them. So the technical details would come in later, and they believe that let the jungle grow in however it decides to grow, let nature take over, and then we will bring in Adam, the thinking man, who will preserve the sanctity of the jungle and just prune it and make it cohabitable for nature and for us. And so we animated coins and dust and pots and spoons, breathing life into inanimate objects. We did pixelation and stop motion and worked with materials just in order to make friends with the medium. It was here that I realized that I liked animating straight under the camera, avoiding all line test and cleanups and inking and coloring and all of that. And I discovered that I could draw with paint and could make the drawing move in a way I couldn't imagine. The aspect of putting a context to it was tricky for me. As a young enthusiast, I believed enthusiasm was a secret ingredient. So that was my HOD, Dr. Nina Sabnani. So I walked up to her and expressed my desire to be an animator. And the first question she asked me is, Shaaz, animators are storytellers. Can you tell stories? To which I was completely stumped because I had never thought of it like that. I thought by watching Disney or Tom and Jerry, etc., that drawing skills were all that was required to be an animator. And so I got into a back foot that, storytelling and animation. Then enters NFBC into our lives, that is the National Film Board of Canada. And along with NFBC comes in Norman McLaren. And we were asked to make friends with him, a Scottish-Canadian animator, director, and producer, who was also known as a pioneer and innovator in the film industry. And the main, now we saw a lot of McLaren, a lot of it, like, stuff like this, when you hear it for the first time, it just blows your mind and you don't know what it really means. These are Norman McLaren quotes. It's not an art form of drawing, it's an art form of movement. And then comes the second one, which was like a bomb when I was a student, as to what happened between the frames is more important than what happened in each frame. And then we were shown films like The Dot and the lines, the vertical lines and the horizontal lines. And for the life of me, when I was a student, I couldn't figure out what was going on, And it took me like a long time to genuinely appreciate it. In fact, I think now after being a teacher, when I look back at them, today I can say that I introduced Norman McLaren to my students while teaching them material animation. And these films for me are like mathematical formulas, in material animation, as to whenever in trouble, run to Norman McLaren and you'll figure out what to move, how to move, where to move, why to move. and that's again Norman McLaren for you. So, like McLaren for me also brought in the idea of the thinking animator. That last commandment was, can you make a tree dance just with your phone, just the way you shoot it? I think the whole idea of inducing thought and thinking animation rather than just drawing animation or building animation, I think it's quite fascinating for me, and I try my level best if I could be a thinking animator. So he developed new ways of thinking about animation, including hand-drawn animation, drawn and film animation, pixelation, graphical sound. And so that the idea that animation was more than just drawings was sort of cemented in my head. And then enters another very, very important character. His name is Derek Lam. He was an Oscar winner, animator. Again, he sort of had associated with the Film Board of Canada. And he introduced us to this fabulous animator called Caroline Leaf, who's a Canadian-American filmmaker. And the first film that I saw, this film, The Two Sisters, it just blew my mind. And after, I can say 30 years later, even today, when I watch Two Sisters, I am completely blown, and I see new details in the film each time. This was done by scratching on exposed film with a blade, and the frame was like that big. This was like, what's going on? And then and the complexity of the narrative, especially, I mean, what really struck me was the complexity of the narrative that Two Sisters is trying to address, which I thought was like bravo. And then I sort of, and the construction of characters, how do you draw with a blade? I delved into other works by her, and then you see that the same filmmaker has made this film, and the forms have changed suddenly. It's all positive, negative, very bold forms. This was done in sand. Fabulous, another very fabulous film with a fabulous story. Then comes in The Street. I was completely taken up by her. Like if you see here, when I'm saying be lazy, take it easy. This is what I mean. Just a nose, and it works. If you look at the character design, they are done for it to be easy to manipulate and easy to maneuver. If you get into more details, the whole process, animation is anyways a laborious process. If you take it easy and keep it easy and be slightly lazy, not really, you arrive at more interesting forms, which are not conventional forms. Caroline Leaf, ladies and gentlemen. I was completely taken up by her. Yeah, more Caroline Leaf. And at this point, I would interrupt and show you a film that a student made recently. Caroline Leaf. Yeah, this is a set. A bunch of kids made this little animated documentary on Caroline Leaf. It's like 1.5 minutes.
Caroline Leaf is an animator and a storyteller and has created a number of short animated films in her time at the National Film Board of Canada. To her, she's a storyteller first. Everything else in her animations are for the benefit of the story. She was born in Washington and lived in Boston for most of her life. She attended Radcliffe College for Visual Arts and had no interest in cinema until she saw her first European film around that time. She took an animation course as an elective, which was taught by Derek Lam. She pioneered animating in sand technique when she was a student at Harvard. Her first film, Sand, or Peter and the Wolf, started with a jar of local beach sand poured onto a lightbox. The Owl Who Married a Goose was an adaptation of an Inuit legend made with the help of an Inuit artist that was an example of tapping into Canadian culture. The Street was an Academy Award nominated film made with paint and glycerin. The Metamorphosis of Mr. Samsa was another film made with beach sand on glass. To her, the limitations of drawing in sand, the simplifications that it requires, made her inventive in the storytelling. Two Sisters was an original story etched on 70mm film emulsion. The goal was movement, and she believed Norman McLaren's observation that what happens between the frames is more important than what happens on each frame.
Yeah, so yeah, Caroline Leaf. Yeah, another medium. This is like, I mean, in my time in the 1990, mid 90s, yes, the computers had arrived, but the edge of technology for us was Xerox, you know, and what can you do with Xerox? You can do this, you can Xerox on the OHP, you can Xerox in Cell, you can blah, blah. Yeah, what really fascinated me as a student, and I don't think I really understood what was fascinating me, but I was still fascinated, was, you know, one artist, multiple mediums, and each medium is lending its personality to character development, to storytelling, to transitions. And here is an example of that. Yeah, and so what I really imbibed was the thought that uh, each narrative is unique, and therefore its visualization needs to be as unique as that narrative is. And I sort of got stuck to that. uh, this is a slide of some of my work, and I have attempted in my life to never repeat a style again. And what that does is that each time, even as a professional, I'm heading into part three, the professional me. Uh, Even as a professional, I still feel like a student, where each time the medium is new and I'm figuring out new things, and I'm very nervous and I'm edgy and I'm uh, anxious as to what the client would say, etc. And by the time I've figured out how to figure out that medium, the project is over. You know, so actually you can say at some level very honestly that I've never really worked a single day of my life. Work. It was always as a student trying to figure out and having fun in figuring that thing out. And by the time I figured it out, the project was over. You know, so that is one feature of my professional life. Yeah, part three. uh you know, having with all of this, Derek Lam, Caroline Leaf, Norman McLaren, cinema, and Herzog, and Godard, and blah, blah, and design, and all of that. When I came out of college, I suddenly realized, I mean, the way I looked at my world around me and my country um, was quite fascinating. I mean, I found India uh, to be a land of colors and textures and full of colors, you know, anything, you know, the architecture, the landscape, everything was so textury, you know, you could tactile, yeah, wherever you see. We are not, I mean, my country is not like the iPhone, like, you know, edible. You'd want to, you know, it's like, uh, yeah, there's a wall, that's a step well, this is a window, that's a charpai, if you know what that is. Uh, yeah, this kind of graffiti, and it's not graffiti really, it's art. It's chalk art, pretty popular in this part of the world. All of this stuff really fascinated me, and especially being empowered as an animator, uh, these things started to mean something else. Yeah, this is my landscape. Now, how much time do I have? I don't have too much time, 5 minutes. So I'll not show you any of my videos, but I'll just, you know, for the sake of conversation, here is something which has been which keeps coming in my head, and I'm not really trying to make a statement, but at the same time I am, because of the medium of material animation and the kind of individuality that is lent in each pieces that you've seen, every piece that you've seen in this presentation. They were very, very individualistic. They had an identity. They had the identity of the maker, the medium, So, and these days I find on my phone, in my WhatsApp, in my Grammarly, everything is trying to be personalized to make you feel damn important and make you feel, give you individuality and give you identity and give you personality, etc. Uh, but I think it's sort of boxing it more further, perhaps. Uh, I don't know what these slides are doing in this presentation, but this thought was there, so I thought I'll bring it out in the open. And if I may say so, personalization puts us at the center of events even when we are not, makes us feel essential and necessary even when we shouldn't be, gives us the illusion of control over how life unfolds even when that control does not exist. This whole business of personalization, your emoticons, your emojis, your hairstyle, oh, your white hair, oh, your glasses, your French beard, but you're still giving me four options. So you're again boxing me into something which really personalization. Okay, moving on. That was just a thought for the sake of conversation. Okay, so now I practiced mainstream television and film and other kind of things, animation for almost 12 years, where again I was trying to be a student, and then I got tired of being a student. And having worked sort of 12, 13 years of my life professionally, I got slightly ambitious and courageous, and I started taking up projects which were not directly related to animation. And my brief to myself was I will do it as an animator because that's all I know. So this was an assignment that came up my way. It was a 7,000 square feet hospital children's ward in a hospital, and the client wanted it to be painted and painted with whatever, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, etc., etc. So I got brave and I said, well, I can't paint those things, copyright issues, but I'll give you something interesting. Don't worry, it'll be colorful. And so what I did was I painted this 7,000 square feet and I narrated the story of the hare and the tortoise and the butterfly and the caterpillar. And I painted the whole thing. And as I was painting it, I was shooting it. And by the end of it, I made a film out of it. And to my surprise, the film won a lot of prestigious awards, especially in India. It won the biggest award in India that was possible at that time. And that was a huge encouragement. And I was told on the stage that we don't know what you've done, but you got it right. So expanded animation sort of entered my life. I'm not showing you the visuals right now. We can see it some other day. We don't have the time. But yeah, this sort of encouraged me to delve into spaces which are unfamiliar. But if I'm true to being an animator and true to exploring what I've been doing all my life, something worthwhile will happen. So this was a children's hospital, uh, and the film plays in the ward. Okay, so it's like a live installation, and children are quite stumped because they see these drawings on the wall and then they see those drawings moving on a screen. So honestly, the dean told me recently that no child cries in this ward, because they're so like zapped with what's going on. Indian hospitals don't have yet these kind of things. Next project. Now I got encouraged by this one, so I took up a women's science college, and I painted the whole thing up. And while I was painting, I got more ambitious and I shot it, and I made another documentary film with slightly more fancy gadgets, moving robotic cameras, etc. Everything is, all the papers are flying, the bird is flying, etc., etc. Yeah, you place your artwork such that the sun moves on it. There's the library. These are some. Yeah. The film was again appreciated, so I got even more encouraged. And this time I took a risk and I attempted doing a cafe, and I called it the Animated Cafe. This is in Mumbai, and here the deal was that I will use the same effect, that the drawings are on the wall in a sequential manner, and the animation of that drawing will be projected on 2, 3 projectors on the walls and the ceiling, and the idea was that it would do something to your head. For people who are not familiar with the process of animation, you're sitting here, you see these drawings, and then suddenly you see them moving over there, and you're wondering what's going on. And it was sort of well appreciated. Uh, Everybody was jumping. The name of the cafe was Tappa. Tappa means to bounce. So when they came to me, I was like, "Arey, bang on, bouncing ball, animation exercise." Everything was bouncing. The sun is bouncing across the earth. The moon is bouncing. The heart is bouncing. The pulse is bouncing. We're all bouncing. Then I got another dental institute, and I got caught with this business of making things fly and move on the walls. So I continued doing that, making Marilyn Monroe brush her teeth, dental institute, Roy Lichtenstein brushing the teeth. Quickly, another cafe, but this time I stopped myself and I said, I'm not going to do sequential art. This is for coastal cuisine from 6 states of India. So I felt more like a designer where I was choosing the furniture, etc., and the cutlery and everything. But here I played with the menu card and I sort of turned that into a storybook. It's like a personal sketch book, and so this was my storytelling, the cafe. 2 cafes down, I was like, enough cafes. So then came my way a metro station, and I think this has been, so far my most important work, because we as animators or artists, to watch my film, you have to be a part of this presentation, or you have to have a computer and you put on my film, you switch it on, and then you get to see. Or if you want to go see a cafe or a museum that I've done, you have to go to that space. Interestingly, this is a metro station called Bikaji Kama metro station in New Delhi. And so I did, again, sequential art. And interestingly and luckily for me, this hoarding is right next to a flyover, and it's on your way to the airport. Okay, so everybody's driving really fast, and these images sort of pass you by, and you do get a sense of motion, And I went to these newspaper wallahs came to me and they were like, does it really work? So I said, you go check it out if it works for you. And they sort of checked it out and they gave me very good coverage for that, which was quite heartening. Yeah. Then I met a gentleman, and he's a puppeteer. His name is Daji Padamji, and I started collaborating with him for animation for theatrical productions, so projection mapping and stuff like that, but at a very basic level. This is from a show called When Land Becomes Water. It has stories of Gilgamesh and Noah and all of that. So this was quite fascinating. And again, this encouraged me and it went well. So I was like, come on, let's make a show on our own this time. I'll end my presentation with that. Okay, yes. And then the pandemic happens. Okay. And you're sitting all alone. I mean, of course, you're taking online classes and you're doing a lot of work because all by yourself and you don't have to go anywhere. You can be in your pajamas and do whatever, but then your mind is working, So this whole business of online and online teaching and online meeting and everything is happening online started giving me these thoughts, the fragmentation of ourselves. I thought of Picasso, of Mondrian, of Kandinsky, and I felt like they were all sort of coming alive, and I sort of, this was an art entry I made, as to how we are all screens, and each screen is a story, and a story within a story within a story within a story. And this artwork won something somewhere. I got more encouraged, and then I attempted making a lot of videos, including people, I would like to show you just that one video. I had other ambitious plans. Pandemic. Check this out. So this as a medium, this as a medium of fragmentation and of togetherness. And here it's people from across the country in India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Gujarat to Assam, and they're all together. We're all together. We're all in our own contexts. I don't know. This was very, very fascinating for me. I did make a proposal. I didn't know where to send it, but this really the coming together of it. I don't know. For me, it felt like a little bit of Picasso, a little bit of Kandinsky, a little bit of Mondrian. Uh, this is this very lame exploration. I'm not thinking. I'm doing. You know. But I thought this was such a fabulous language at that point in time. We were all touching each other like that. We were hugging each other like this. And after a video call, we would feel very good. We would feel like we're healthy and we're alive. Check this out. So people are chatting, and they're all thousands and thousands of kilometers away from each other. I'm just saying, think about it. It's a simple image. There's no big deal about that. We've seen this all our lives. But the whole pandemic and the whole don't touch me and stay away and I don't know, I got quite excited about it. I even wrote a script. The pandemic got over. Thumbs up. No, not this. 2 more minutes. Last. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. National Museum. I'll skip this. Another form of medium came. This was completely technology and AI and UI and UX and transparent LED screens, and the whole medium sort of changed. You can hover and change pages. And you could, this was the National Museum of India in Delhi. This we did in collaboration with the Institute of Art and Design. We brought in 7 kids from IIAD, and we all worked on it together. Projection mapping, as a medium of play. I will skip this. This is Indian Madhubani. Yeah, this is my final last project that we've just finished, and we are doing shows again. This is again with IIAD students who've helped in the animation production of the show. It's on the poet Rumi and the universal language of love. The interesting thing here was that while I was doing this, I was introduced to something called Mid-Journey and AI-generated images. And there was a huge debate around the validity and plagiarism and what will happen to art and what will happen to this, and artists will go out of job and blah, blah, blah. And I think all of that is true at some level, but maybe not at all the levels, because an artist is an artist. The AI is just a tool. So me, along with my students, we attempted deliberately to use this tool called the AI, and we would feed in images and say, we want something like this, and it would give us options, and then we got a lot of options, and then we put those options together, and then we painted the artwork. Right now we are scared for plagiarism's sake. So we painted the artworks, and then we animated them, and they are a part of this show right now, which I'm hoping to bring to your city one day. Yeah, so thank you very much. That was my little talk on material animation. Now I'll take 7 minutes more of your time, and I will try and do a little demo. Let's get it on. I'll try and do a little demo, okay? And the point of this demo is to say the medium of material animation, if you take it easy, be lazy, don't think too much, just do, okay? Because the way each one touches is different, so each touch makes a separate impression, and that is our identity. Each one of us, the way we open the door is different, the way we hold the pen is different. So the way we touch our mediums are different. And so I'll just show you a little demo, and Suresh Prachi will tell you what to do.
अच्छा स्क्रीन शेयर आउट कर नहीं ये नहीं
इधर इधर
नहीं
नो ऑडियो Yeah. Prachi ma'am, would you like to tell them what this demo is all about?
No, that's fine.
No, please tell them.
You complete your demo.
All I'm trying to say is it's very easy and something fascinating happens each time you do it. And I mean, I don't do it all the time. I've done it for this session. Yeah, that's right. So we begin and not too much hard work. Yeah, so we will try and do something and then we will erase everything. So we start by frame number 1. So, back to. I'm just dropping sand. Frame number 2, we can switch on the light.
नहीं मुझे
Frame number 3. Frame number 4. I don't need that. 5. I'm just putting sand. 6. 7. This will come, right? The one behind. 8. 9. 10. Then I am just spreading it around. Trying to be as lazy as possible. I'm just touching the sand and spreading it. I'm trying to be as lazy as possible. And not achieving anything, not making any forms. Now I'll start touching it differently. No, not now. Kind of remove the sand, but doing it differently. Using my whole edge of the palm. James. This is being shot on an app called the Stop Motion Studio. So we'll be able to see the results immediately. I urge you to try it. Material animation is a fascinating medium. And each time you do it, it's different. Change the speed. Sorry, yeah. Damn. This is the frame rate. The machine, right?
Hi, Shaz. That was fantastic. How inspirational. Really exciting. And you scared me when you said, be lazy, take it easy, because that's a sort of an antithesis of what we all talk to our students about. But I get you now that it's about just letting things be experimental and just try things out. Don't get too uptight about what you're doing. So that allows space to be creative.
Yeah, and some interesting things happened. If you see, I mean, I was trying to be very lazy here, frankly. You know?
Thank you, Shaz, for such an incredible presentation. Even as an outsider to animation, I had my mind racing throughout the presentation. I really appreciate how you try to bring the sensory back into the work and how you thoroughly talk about textures and spaces. Thank you so much again. And I'm sure this might have also triggered the minds of the members in the audience with questions and ideas that they would want to discuss with the conversers today. But before we dive into the conversation, I would like to ask the audience to try something relating to material animation of your own. And we would want this conversation to extend even after the event today. So I urge all of you all to try something and upload it with tagging our social media accounts. With this, can I request somebody from the comms team to drop the handles of our social media in the chat? And when you post all of this, you can tag us and we can repost all of your animation and share it with everybody. On this note, I would like to hand over to Sumit to initiate the conversation. Over to you, Sumit.
Yes, I think someone's, yeah. Yeah. Hi. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Jake Abrahams, Associate Professor at Kingston School of Art, London, to join Shaaz in this conversation. Hi, Jake. Next, I would like to introduce Shreya Arora, an alumni of IIAD. It's a pleasure to welcome her back to IIAD. Shreya was recently nominated for the Best Script Award for her film Women's Folklore by the Women's International Film Festival, LA. We're really proud of her for that. And joining them is Sriram, who's here with me. He's an L6 student here at IIAD. He's studying communication design as well. He'll be taking the conversation forward with us. He's a budding animator just like myself and an inspiration to all of us here at IIAD. And I would love to request the students of both the universities to join us via chat if you have any questions or ideas that you would want to share with all of us. Yeah, we can begin. I'm sure Shreya has something to input here.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that Shaaz presented today. And I would just like to share a little bit of my experience when I first started animating through materials. So when the course started for us, animation, I was very scared because I thought that animation was just about drawing digitally. And I was never good at drawing digitally. So, and then Shaaz introduced us to materials. He said that you choose any material that you want. It can start from choosing to clay, mud and water, to fruits, vegetables, to anything that you see around. And we also explored the tree part also that he mentioned in the presentation. So when that happened, I think that was the point where I actually understood every medium. And then it didn't stop me. Like I was exploring fruits and vegetables. So there's an animation that we created where we actually used fruits animating part by part, and we made it a story. And there was mud and water, there was clay, there was so much to do. And then there was a point where the burnout happened, basically. So then I think that was the real time when I actually understood all the materials, that how any material that you choose acts or how you can manipulate it according to what you want. Before that, it was just taking this material, taking that material, putting them together, and doing something out of that. And after that, after the burnout phase, I think that was the actual time when I understood the feel, the texture, the style that I want to actually take over from every material that I choose. And then the interesting bit was to manipulate them digitally also. So there have been bits where we have taken material as a stop motion, and then we have done something digitally to even enunciate it more into a form of a story. So I think that is how it evolves. You eventually evolve through the process of um, evolving with materials.
Figuring
And
out how to figure out. Yeah.
yeah. So that is exactly what I think you also said. And one thing that I feel I I got better eventually was to be patient with materials, because every material acts on its own way. So some materials were very annoying because you can't just move them in the way you want. And sometimes it also got disappointed. But there was too many surprises. So when he said that, yes, you make mistakes, he is right, because then only you understand that how that material can do surprises for you like that. So that is how the journey for me has been so far in material. And I'm still figuring out materials. Like I always try. I'm still working on a film, so I'm trying materials again for that, and looking forward to how it is going to be like. one thing that I wanted to ask, or maybe not ask, but just conversate about, was how do you patiently tackle the burnout phase? Like that is the phase where I think you lack ideas also, and then you lack the motivation to maybe just explore with the material also. And I'm still figuring that out, but I just want to drop this as a conversation, that how do you manage, or how to manage the burnout phase that you get while exploring the materials, basically.
Jake, how I would like to hear what you have to say. How do you deal with the burnout?
I think it's a good question, and yeah, that sort of creative momentum that you're talking about, and I think it is a sort of, yeah, sometimes you think, oh, I am absolutely stuck, and yeah, finding those ideas and that momentum doesn't come straightforward, and I think maybe it alludes to what Shaaz is talking about, is then go and experiment in a different way, or move away into a different realm for a little while and try something new, experiment. And then I think it just reinvigorates what you've been doing already. And I think all of us creative people have times when we hit walls, and I think to circumvent them, yeah, try it a different way, or try going at a different angle, and then I think things. So it sounds very straightforward, this, but it never is. But it can help.
I think that's when the
Completely agree.
trusting the material and letting the material speak helps during that burnout session, instead of uh, forcing any forms of thoughts inside, letting it speak for itself, like trusting it, that like gives you direction to go forward or move forward.
Also, try and do 3 projects at a time, always. So that if you get burnt out here, you move on here. Then you get burnt out there, you move on here. By the time you're burnt out here, you'll come back to the first one.
First,
That really works, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's been going for, at least for me. I've been dealing with the college projects, and Jamboree's been ongoing for a while. Yeah, and then some freelance projects over and over again. Shaz, there was something that I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned earlier how when you'd be working freelance, you'd be exploring mediums, but by the time the project got over, you were still at that space where you were still understanding the material, right?
Sort of.
So yeah, so is there some material or a couple of them that you'd still want to approach and master them, and maybe take on like a longer project so you can actually
Master is a different deal altogether. You know, I don't know about mastering a medium or something. I don't know what qualifies or what quantifies to that. I would let Caroline Leaf be the master, and I would be the student. You know, let her do the master. You know, but um, uh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe smoke. But but you've tried some stuff in this whole theater business. You've been projecting on smoke, you know,
Yeah.
and that sort of gets quite fascinating, though it gets very choky for the audience, you know, and for the actors on the stage. But if you throw a lot of smoke and you project on it, something really bizarre happens again. So no, I'm open to what comes my way, like AI, you know. So I'm currently quite, you know, like I'm like, oh, what is that, you know, and how does that happen? Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little more on AI and animation? Like I was reading about it yesterday only, but I um, wanted to know how exactly AI plays a role. Like I've seen projection mapping, I've seen different sects of what you've done in other works also. But how much does animation or material in animation involves AI, and what exactly it does is something that I wanted to know.
It doesn't involve anything, but it will take over. Don't worry. Jake, I would love to hear your comments on this AI business. You know,
Yeah, you know, myself, I think it is a medium, And I think people get very worried about, yeah, it's got to be VR and it's got to be AI. Actually, essentially, sorry.
Sorry. Are you worried? Are you worried?
No, whether I'm naive, I don't know. But
No.
I think, yes, certainly I don't understand the technology, and there's always new technology and so much to learn all the time. But I think, yeah, the best creatives I know, embrace the technology. They work with people that know how to do it better.
Yes.
But essentially, underneath it all, it's all about what's the content and not the the medium. And you can always find somebody who's more capable than yourself. But yeah, at the essence, is coming back to what you're trying to say and how to say it. Is yeah, there are lots of branches to that. Yeah.
No, I think it is here. This is just the beginning. It is here to stay forever and ever. It is here to become stronger and stronger and stronger, and it will help you, not help you, but uh, it'll show you stuff that you would like, whoa, what was that? But I don't think as artists you need to worry about it, because it's just another form of expression. It's like painting and sculpture and animation. They're all separate. So AI will always be AI, and
But do you think
yeah.
AI will take over animators? Like, do you think it's going to
If
happen?
someone wants AI animation, yeah, it will take over the animators. But if someone doesn't want the AI animation, then it will not take over the AI animation.
Yeah.
In fact, I already am finding it that initially, like 2 months ago, I would stop at an AI image and stare at it. Now I don't. Because
Right.
the moment you realize it's an AI image, you're saturated. There's something very similar about all of them.
Mhm.
Which I'm again sure that very soon that will also go. But I would say make friends with it, and not friends. Try and be master. It's treated like a tool. It's like a pencil, and see what you can do.
Storytelling is the core. The core
Yeah.
is always going to be storytelling. It's how you
What you
tell.
do with that medium, yes, it's
Yeah.
quite fascinating. It's quite mind blowing. Uh, but let's see what you do with it. I mean, I made an attempt with a gang of students, and we are all looking at each other and saying, "Yeah, the copyright page said the image is yours, right?" So I said, "Yeah, the copyright page did say that, But we to be on the safe side, we recreated the artworks. The final one that we landed up with, we remade them and whatever. But we did use that as a tool for a couple of scenes, just for the sake of it. Let's see what happens. And
I was wondering. I have taken a lot from what you've said today, and it's being uninhibited. I think, and just getting on with stuff that I think is really inspirational. The other thing that I was thinking about is taking animation away from this rectangle in front of us and actually thinking of animated on projections on walls or different shapes. And it's lovely to see the student work where I love that curb of the street and then going up that tree. I like how cheeky that was. I'm wondering, because actually, I've got quite a lot of my students from your sister's school here in London. Whether any of my students would actually comment on and ask any questions. I was just, as we got Shaaz here, putting you on the spot. Go on. Don't let me down.
There's a question in the chat from you.
No, it's not. Yeah. Hoping there is something.
The kids don't believe in talking,
Chat. Where is chat? Put chat.
Okay, we have something. Thank you so much for your presentation. Very uplifting. Your advice to do something totally other as a writer. There is nothing scarier than a blank sheet of paper or screen. So you have to write something, anything, put some words down, some thoughts, which can be edited, rewritten, even the bits you edit, leave out, still inform the end result. And I would also add, don't overthink things. Yeah. Not a lot of questions, but really like the ideas. That's lovely.
There's a question from Prachi which says she would like to hear what the student community feels about the influx of AI.
Let's see. We're getting anything?
Yeah, I mean, your opinions. Sriram, what do you think? Sumit, what about you?
Animation has been a fascinating thing.
This is
But AI, I worked on AI actually for one of my projects for image making.
yes.
I made a final outcome which was based on some 5 landmarks, key moments from my life, and it was interesting. It was challenging though somehow because at that time, like I don't know about now because I haven't tried it recently, but 4 or 5 months ago, there were all of these caps on how many images you can make using one account, because that's how most of these AI generators work. You make an account and then you give it a prompt, and you can only take out 25 prompts. Then you have
to pay money after that.
yeah, then you have to pay money or make fake accounts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
There's a question for Sumit and Sriram.
there's a question for us. We'd like to hear what kind of struggles you face as an upcoming animator and advice for aspiring animators. I think that one Shaaz can answer. We can tell the struggles that we're facing right now.
So initially, when I was part of Shah's workshop, after watching some of his work, I got really ambitious and started. Lot of ideas came to my mind, and I guess after doing some sand animation, and then I moved on to oil paint animation. Uh, I forgot about the lazy bit, and I started making forms, and that actually, when I was not getting the results that I wanted, that like demotivated me, and I did not go back to like material animation for a while since I was not getting the results that I wanted. So that the learning came a bit later, and like trusting the material and first figuring out how it works, and then the material will give you ideas, and that's like the way to start.
Okay. Yeah. See, for me, I took Shaz's advice of being lazy a little too seriously, I think.
Yeah.
I come up with like 3 or 4 quite good ideas that were really approved by my faculties. But then I got so lazy at making them that I finished it off in 2 days, and the outcome wasn't that lovely. And my wish to do expanded animation, so I wanted to make a film, like a minute-long film, and take you through the roads of Delhi and paint stuff on the walls. And as you move along different streets, different places, you see the story happening.
Come and catch you.
Huh? Sorry?
If you start painting on the streets of Delhi, the cops will come and catch you.
Exactly, yeah. So that was sad, but hopefully I can take it up again at some point. We've got advice for aspiring animators, Shaz.
I think we can take that last as closing comments, but I would request Shaz and Jake to address the rest of the questions. First, I would like to take Usha Mam's question to Jake. Curious to know what is the animation as a medium is approached by KSA. So what KSA uses as medium?
Actually, unfortunately, my colleagues, the professors of animation, have just had to leave to a class. But that's my subject as well. And we too approach it in lots of different ways. There are lots of courses in the UK that sit their students down in front of computers, and they become just computer operators. They've become very adept at making things move. But Kingston has always, I suppose, going back to my previous point, is actually said the content and the idea the story perhaps is really has to be preeminent. You have to have very good skills and technical skills, of course, but actually I think you have a much more exciting life as a visual communicator, as an animator, if you're talking about issues and ideas, and that's at the heart of what we do. We've just been writing this new MA because we've always been sort of preeminent in the UK animation, but we've never had a master's degree before, and so it's been really exciting to actually say, well, what is important for the animators, masters animators of the future, and it's not those technical skills. It's more like Shaaz is talking about, is that experiment and pushing ideas forward that will make them survive and thrive outside whatever the technology. Vague answer, sorry.
No problem at all. So before we close, Shaz, can you address one more question, which is by Dew? He asked, I found the Metro project where you created live animation as a result of moving fast in vehicles very interesting. Have you thought up similar projects or know of more of this sort of animation experienced by real world movement?
I have thought up, I have attempted, but this can work really well in metros, etc. But then there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy, and I'm not built for that. So the moment I realized it will take all of that, I just backed out and I said, the day you are ready for it, we'll do it. But I'm sure, Jake, you must be aware. I'm told in Germany it is there, in the Germany metro. The German metros have the train moving and animation happening outside. I'm just told. I haven't.
Yeah, it sounds great. I haven't seen that either, but what a lovely idea, and I really love this idea of animations in space that you are really playing with, we are all confined so much to that screen,
Yes,
and to find other ways of doing it and exciting people in the street.
Yeah. Like your metro,
Okay.
your metro in your country, your city.
Yeah, a really famous photographer in Kingston, Edwin Muybridge, and he was he really looked at he really was one of the very first to link still images together, and yeah, he really was the start of, we think, of course, because he's from Kingston, the moving image and animation, and those photographs, yeah, they look fantastic when they're put together and you drive past them.
Oh, that's quite amazing that Muybridge is from Kingston. I mean, we are taught of Muybridge as God. He's the father of cinema, father of animation, the father of this and the father of that.
He was also a philanderer and a murderer, but we won't mention that.
Okay.
All creative people are slightly.
I think we have to be a bit mindful of the time here. I think everyone's going to be running out soon. Shaz, before we wrap up everything, can you answer for Ishani? She wants some advice for any more aspiring animators who are amongst us right now.
Keep
It
doing
can
it.
be
Few words, few lines, yeah.
Keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Don't stop.
Okay.
Make an animation a day and post on Instagram. At least that will be enough. Your likes and all will be enough impetus for you to create that piece of work. I'm sort of to put my Instagram ID here.
Yeah, I think somebody can do that. Somebody from the comms team can put your Instagram there as well. I have some issue with my camera, but I'll just keep going. It was really lovely to have all of you here and have this intriguing discussion that we had here. I hope that we can keep this conversation going beyond this event. And keep experimenting, keep conversing. I'd like to thank Shaaz for his inspiring talk and all the conversers who were part of this. Dr. Jake Abrams, Shreya, Sriram, for contributing with your thoughts. And I had a lot of thoughts that I'm mulling over. So now I'd like to introduce the student ambassadors who were part of Jamboree. the awesome team, which consisted of Kriti Agarwal and Diya Goyal, who did the work for graphic design. Rishabh and I were responsible for the animation. Ishani Sen, Chandrika Mehra, and Ritika, who worked on the community engagement. And yeah, before we end today, Jamboree's next event is taking place on the 18th of January, which is next week. Dr. Jake Abrams, he'll be speaking about poetic objects. I'd like to hand over to Jake, if he can speak a little bit about the talk.
Yeah, thank you so much. And actually, gosh, that's such a hard act to follow because it was so inspirational, Shaaz. So thank you. Yeah, I suppose what I'll be talking about, and I hope you'll be able to join us, is about ideas. Because whether you're a fashion designer or an interior designer or a graphic designer, illustrator or animator, whatever, I think ideas are essential. And they are pesky. They're so difficult to find. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about some of the strategies that we employ here at Kingston, but also, yeah, how it relates to my own practice as an artist and illustrator. So yeah, so same time next week. Yeah, I hope you'll come along.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Abrams. Which one am I at? Which camera am I at? It's too many cameras around here.
Thank you, sir, and we are really excited to see you on the 18th. Thank you, everybody, for being such a warm and patient audience today.